button. All right, looks like it's doing what it should be doing. So, welcome everybody. Everyone say hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Greg's got his microphone off too. That's okay. We're going to go through some of the material that we went through in the first 2 training sessions because you guys have all joined us since then. I think, Kira, you might have been at one of the first 2, were you?
I was at the second one, but not the first.
All right, cool. So it's mostly around, a lot of it I would say is around the background to Southern Cross Kids Camp, where we come from. There's a bit of work around the roles that we do. Hang on, let me look at my notes. Looking at the spiritual foundations, also looking at, what have we got here? A little bit around the boundary stuff. So, Kira, you were there for the canoes and things, and that sort of thing. So, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on it. Everybody's received a copy of the training manual, either a paper one or a digital one. Yes, thumbs up from everyone.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yep. Everyone's giving me a thumbs up. Fantastic. So, what we're doing is largely based on that. But as we go, if you have any questions at any time, jump in, interrupt me. Oh, hi, Carolyn, and whatever. If you don't really want to interrupt, just type something in the little Zoom group chat window that's there. Can everyone see that? I'm seeing funny looks from Kelly. It's there somewhere, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yep, you got it. Fantastic. So I'm waving to Carolyn. So yeah, we'll get into it. And as I said, as we go, if there's anything you want clarified or anything like that, please do ask. So let's see, share that. All right, and then now, are you seeing like my screen, or are you seeing just the main slide?
Your screen.
Okay. Oh, you don't need to see all of that. I'll go to that one. There we go. So most of you will know Southern Cross Kids is a Christian not-for-profit organisation. We provide annual camps for children across Australia. And it says there more than 400 volunteers, and you guys are part of that group, so congratulations. And that's growing every year. As the camps grow, the number of volunteers we have grow. Why the training is a question that comes up often. Obviously, our goal is to give these kids positive experiences. And part of the training is building self-awareness, because as volunteers on camp, your self-awareness contributes to their experience. So, got a little one here. It says, according to Bob Dritter, who is a senior level clinical social worker who specialises in the evaluation and treatment of children, adolescents and their families, he's got a little quote here. Those who work with children, especially abused and neglected ones, are putting themselves at risk, the risk of becoming more like children. Children can exert what he calls a regressive pull on those who work with them. If you are relatively inexperienced, you may react to the antics and behaviours of a hyperactive or over-dependent, hostile or sexualised child by becoming, and he uses the word mean. And it says mean refers to an instinctive or reflexive capacity to respond to a child in kind for lack of sufficient understanding as to why they act that way. It's all about making sure we know. Training's all about preparing us so when stuff happens with the kids, we're able to respond and react in a way that helps them and maximises the positiveness of their experience on camp rather than maybe the other way around. So we were founded in Australia in 1999 by Carolyn Boyd. Carolyn Boyd is no longer with us. It's based on the Royal Family Kids Camp, a model they use in Idaho, USA. And it's very much the same idea, a week of happy memories in the life of an abused or abandoned child. So ours is worded slightly differently, but the basic idea is the same. How it started out was Carolyn was going over to USA to volunteer in camps over there, and having done a few, she decided that this really was, excuse me for a second, this really was something that we needed over here in Australia as well. It's not just an American issue, it's definitely Australia and worldwide. So there's a little comment here from Carolyn. She says, When we were invited to this camp and I realised the purpose of Royal Family Kids Camp, to make a week of happy memories in the life of an abused child, I was sceptical. I wondered if giving a child one wonderful week and then sending him or her back to their own situation might do more harm than good. My opinion was radically changed as I saw children grow in self-esteem, confidence, and above all hope right there before my eyes. And that's something that you guys will see on camp. You will see that your kids, particularly the ones that you work with as buddies, grow. You will see them develop. You will see them come out of their shells. You will see them grow in confidence. You will see them become more like, I guess, the real person that they can be, start to see a little bit more of that potential that's within them rather than the circumstances and whatever that they've been through. So from 1998 onwards, there were teams from Australia that went over to Idaho to visit the camps and get a feel for it. And then in 99 we started. We go with the starfish logo. Does anybody know why we use the starfish logo? Show of hands if you know why we have a starfish as our logo. Scratching your face, does that count as a show of hands, Kira? Yeah, Kira knows. All right. Not many people though. So it's based on, there's a story, and I'll tell the very shortened version of it, of a young boy walking along the beach. And it's a very long beach, and all the way along the beach there's thousands and thousands of starfish that are stranded on the beach. And the little boy's picking the starfish up one by one and throwing them back into the water. And there's a bloke there too, or a person there, it doesn't really matter. And this particular bloke says to the kid, "What are you doing? You know, there are thousands and thousands of starfish here. You're just one kid throwing one in at a time. What you're doing cannot make a difference." And as the kid throws one more starfish back into the water, he says it makes a difference to that one. And that's why we do what we do. We understand that we can't help every kid that needs it, but we recognise that we can make a difference in the life of this one, or this one, or this one. You know, out of the 20 or 21 that we take on camp, we can change them forever. Good stuff. All right. Somebody's throwing things around. Is that you, Kelly?
I'm getting dinner.
Good on you. So, so the camp training, I should say, the trainings, the three main reasons we have the training is to acquaint and sensitise you as the staff and buddies to the background of the kids, to build specific buddy and leadership skills, and to build team unity and relationship. And that's why the coming together at the trainings that we have at camp, at the church that we've been doing is so important. All right, so our mission. A safe week of happy memories is essentially what it is. It's about giving these such a positive experience that it starts to balance out some of the negatives that they've gone through. So no matter what their behaviour, no matter what their cultural, social or religious background is, no matter how they feel about themselves, we show them that they are important. We show them that they are valuable. We show them that they have worth. We show them that somebody cares about them, that somebody loves them, that somebody wants the best for them. There's a few other things in the note. It says there about developing important life skills, communication and decision making. Some of our kids can get a lot of practice with that. Giving them a new sense of hope, a new outlook on life, and of course providing positive adult role models. And that's why in the third session we talked a lot about the boundaries and the dress code and stuff like that. All right. So if you're going to have a mission, you've got to have a vision. It says multiple camps in every state and territory of Australia. And if you've seen the promotional video, the Hope video, you will have seen me say that the goal is to have a camp out of every major centre because that's the need. And it really is the need. There isn't a place, there isn't a big town or a city that you could go to within Australia where there wouldn't be at least 20 kids who have experienced neglect and trauma and abuse and all that sort of thing, and who would benefit from a camp like ours. So some of the ways we do that: mobilising local churches, probably should say, and other organisations to meet the needs of abused and neglected children. those positive relationships with welfare and foster care agencies. So I'm personally connected with probably half a dozen different agencies here in the Ballarat area, plus a number of churches and other organisations as well. And it's all through the camp. It's all for the cause of the camp. We provide the 1 week camping experience and, of course, the training, which we're doing a little bit of now. So the rest of these particular slides is going through the roles. And I know we've touched on them briefly in some of the other training that we've done, but I think particularly for the new people, it's really good to go back through those just to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of who's doing what and how they're doing it and that sort of thing. So, the buddy, most of you are down for buddy, some of you are down for staff. So your role, it says come to camp ready to decorate cabins, and then we've shared some examples of name signs on the Facebook page. Has everybody seen those? Give me a wave if you've seen the name signs. Excellent, there's a few people there waving at me. The second one's really important. Your role as a buddy is to know the whereabouts of your camper at all times. You must always know where they are. I'm just looking, oh, there it is. Thanks, Greg. It's very easy if you've got an active camper who likes to run, likes to move around a bit. It's very easy to lose track if you're not keeping up with them. The other thing is that if you've got a really nice camper that likes to just sort of sit quietly and do their own thing, then the temptation can be, particularly as the week moves on, to sort of pull back a little bit and, maybe I'll have a chat over here to these guys because, my kid's pretty good. And then you turn back around in 2 minutes' time and they're not there anymore. It's like, right, where's my camper? One of the questions that I ask kids a lot when I'm walking around camp as a camp director is, where's your buddy? Because I'll see them come barreling down the hill past the dining hall. Hey, Fred, where's your buddy? There they are. And you see them coming down behind them. They've got their backpack over their shoulder, carrying their jumper, carrying their drink bottle, doing all that sort of thing. Showing the fruit of the Spirit, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, and leading campers in a meaningful week of camp. Oh, there you go. It's either chat window or moving my slides. Okay, so keeping going with the buddy, attitude of joy and patience, open your heart, be willing to be vulnerable, be reasonably energetic, but pace yourself. Once again, that very much depends on your camper, just how energetic you need to be. Seek help when you need it. Really important. If you need some help, if you need some support, please ask. The last thing we want is to lose a buddy or a staff member because they didn't get the help they needed when they needed it. All right, and a prayer partner, of course. Okay, facilitator. So we've got a couple of our new girls are going to be our facilitators this year. The runner, the gopher, etc. The facilitators are the only ones who leave site during the week, unless it's nurse or camp nurse going in the ambulance with a kid who's got a broken leg. The rest of us stay there. Even if when you have your buddy breaks and things like that, you really don't have enough time within that to be going off site and in the town and things like that. They will do laundry every day, and we talked about in your cabin you'll have 2 laundry bags, one for clean, one for dirty. You put the dirty stuff in the dirty bag, you put the clean bag on the top of it before you come to breakfast, so anything that needs washing from the kids. The runners will come around and collect them, but they'll do all the washing, and then once it's clean and folded and whatever, they'll put it back into the clean bag, put the dirty bag back in on top, folded down flat, and that'll come up to the dining room or something like that to be collected. They will organise the printing of the photos for the memory books that we haven't talked about a lot, buying supplies, etc., and of course with all of these assisting and supervising activities. So that also means with the buying supplies, if there's something you or your camper needs, they're the ones who get it. So one of the first things we do once the kids come to camp is we ask their buddies to make sure that everything's got their name on it. So every hat, every shoe, every t-shirt, everything's got their name on it. It can just be their initials and a cabin number, or it can just be their first name and a cabin number. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's identifiable. And when you're doing that, that's a good time to just check and make sure they've got what they need. So if they've only got 2 pairs of socks and no pajamas, well, we can do something about that. Maybe the sleeping bag they've got is only a really lightweight summer sleeping bag. It's pretty cold in Creswick in September, October, so we can do something about that. The runners will actually have a book that we'll keep probably in the dining room, and anything that you know that you're going to need for your campers or for yourself. I've come on camp and forgotten my toothbrush, for example. You put it in the book and they'll make sure that happens. All right. Grandparents. So Greg and Melinda are going to be our grandparents. They're going to be Camp Omar and Camp Opar. And it's very much it's one of those roles where really the name says it all. Be approachable, gentle, smiley, safe hugs, empathy, care, love, that sort of thing. Someone safe, a listening ear, a timeout person. Part of their routine will be each night, once the kids go back to their cabins, the grandparents will come and visit every single cabin to say goodnight to the kids and just touch base with them and connect. You know, how was your day? What's something you really enjoyed today? What was your favourite part of the J Zone? All that sort of stuff. And of course, available to help if needed. It should probably say other duties as required, because that tends to be my response to most of this sort of stuff. Camp grandparents are particularly involved in the breakfast club program in the morning. In the past, our camp grandma, or in this case our Camp Omar, has organised, or been in charge of, I should say, been in charge of a little bit of cooking. So maybe making pancakes, maybe making toasted sandwiches, decorating cupcakes, that sort of thing. The other thing for the camp grandparents is when we have our activities where we have buddy breaks. Camp grandparents are definitely involved there. But they're also very good for just when you just need an extra person. Maybe you and your camper need to go to the toilet, or they just want to go and have a chat somewhere. Grandparents are good for that. Shane and Annie will be our photographers this year. They will try and get pictures of every kid doing every activity every day. That's their goal. Those photos will be used for a few different things. The main thing they're used for, though, is for the campers' memory books. So hands up if you know what I'm talking about when I say memory books. Getting a few waves? Most people, fantastic. So those photos will be printed. They'll be available for you in what we call cabin 5, which is the leader's cabin, each night, whenever they get back. And they go into the memory book, and then you put like a little comment, like, wow, you did an amazing job on, it was fantastic the way you... Oh, Jordan, who's your other visitor?
That's Suki. She just poured my Coke all over my laptop.
Oh, Suki.
Come here.
Photos will be used for slideshows as well, and of course available to help when needed. One of the other things we do at the end of camp, before we give the kids back to the parents and carers, we do a little show for them. We get the kids to sing a couple of songs, and we do a slideshow. So here's some memories from camp for them. Coach. So our coach this year is Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Did I talk about this with you, Kelly? Give me the thumbs up if I did. Fantastic. So I couldn't remember whether I had or not, and I just panicking there. So the coach leads campers and buddies in fun games and activities before breakfast each morning. Be ready with a game at any time. Encourage positive, affirming, not too competitive, Kelly. We're aiming for inclusion and participation. And of course, available to help when needed. One of the key roles for coach is for those dead times. We're getting ready to go to another activity. The other activity's not quite ready yet. Maybe we're waiting for a new staff member. There you go. So, okay. I'm getting little pop-ups from Zoom. So, someone that I can go, hey, coach, can you run a quick game? And coach goes, sure thing, Director Dan. Come on, kids, stand to the oval. Let's go do a thing. And that's a big part of coach's role on camp. Coach, you also get to wake everyone up in the morning, assuming they haven't already got up to wake you up. I hope that's okay. On our Geelong camp, by the third morning, we had a group of boys who decided they were sick of coach waking them up. They were going to get him up. So they were up and down the corridor outside our rooms. Wake up, coach! At 5:30 in the morning. Exciting times. J-Zone team. So there's a few people in the J-Zone team. Sharon is our main person. Sharon will be leading the singing, leading the stories, telling the stories, doing the Bible stuff. But we'll also have the person who's going to play Lucy, who, if any of the kids ask, is a real person, not a puppet. Laurie will be doing our music and sound stuff, the drama team that I'm a part of, and a few others as well. So there's a lot going on there. J-Zone's in the morning between morning tea and lunch. Breakfast Club team will be mostly led by Sue, but that's a big team. So most of the other staff will be in the J-Zone in the Breakfast Club during Breakfast Club time. So that's the time when the buddies have their buddy meeting, which is their debrief. This is what we're up to today. Is there anything you need to know? That sort of thing. And of course, available to help when needed. How about that? All right, what's the next one? Craft team, well, that's our Breakfast Club and J-Zone team, so there's nothing special there. Camp nurse. So our camp nurse will be Aaron. Aaron's actually a paramedic, so he's very good at dealing with emergency injuries. Touch wood, the worst emergency injury we'll have on camp will involve them needing a Band-Aid and maybe some sympathy. That's all we've had so far. But he also takes care of all the medicines. So if there's kids that need to have medicine, whether it's morning or evening or night or lunchtime or whatever, he keeps track of all of that. He looks after that stuff during the week. He keeps it all in a locked box, and he's the one who dials it out. He's also there if you need, Panadol or a Difflam or something like that. He's there to help out with that too. Jordan, this is you! Yay, Jordan! And there's someone else too in that role, Jordan. Who was the other person?
Was it Shannon?
I'm just looking up.
I think she said she didn't want to do it. I don't know.
No, it's not Sharon. It's not Shannon. It's Carolyn.
Carolyn
Bannon. I don't think you know Carolyn yet.
No.
So Carolyn's has got a lot of experience in working with these kinds of kids too. So,
awesome.
So we've already done that first line about the buddy camper allocation, but it's more about that other stuff. So advising the buddies when there's issues that come up, being flexible, being discerning, participating, being available to help with need. One of the things we'll have on camp is what we'll call the care team. The idea with the care team is if there is an incident, instead of everybody having to worry about it or deal with it, just call for the care team. So that'll be you, Jordan, and Carolyn, and myself, and Sharon, and probably Phoebe as well, and Aaron, or something like that, and maybe Indy. So there'll be a group of half a dozen people that if there is an incident, they're the ones that deal with that. Passes to men and women. So Matt and Sarah are our main people for this year, but they do need to leave Wednesday night. So I've got Aaron and Phoebe tagged into that role as well. They're more there where the camp counsellors are there to really support the kids. These guys are there to really support the buddies and the other staff. So these are the ones you go and talk to if you just need a debrief or sound off or anything like that. Confidentiality is reasonably assured unless they believe someone's in imminent danger or something like that. Often I find it's just a role where people just want to talk. They don't necessarily want something done about it. They don't necessarily want something fixed. They just want to say, hey, this is what's going on with me and this is how I feel. Now, director is me. Yay! And Indy, I've got it down as program coordinator, but it's very much that sort of assistant director kind of role. So delegating, most of the things on that list are pre-camp stuff, but we'll be there throughout the camp to sort of jump in and do it. I like to see my role as the director as being like a theatre director. So if you're directing a play, by the time the play actually goes and is performed, the director shouldn't really have anything to do. It should be all taken care of. Everyone knows their roles. Everyone knows what they need to do. Everyone's learned their parts, and away we go. Whereas, you know, and it's very much the same for Camp 2. So I would like to think that by the time we get to camp, you guys are all over everything, and I can kind of just sit back a little bit and know that things are happening and just step in if needed. But I've got Indy in that role as kind of that day-to-day hands-on kind of stuff. So if it's like, where am I supposed to be at this time, or who's meant to be looking after this, that sort of thing, Indy will be the person for you to go and talk to. All right, supporters. So we have lots of supporters. There's a group of ladies at a church out in Maryborough that are knitting furiously even as we speak to make the beanies and gloves we're going to give to the kids. There's another group of ladies in Bendigo that have been doing quilts for us. McCain's here in Ballarat have been collecting stuff for our birthday boxes. Ballarat Central Church of Christ has been collecting stuff for birthday boxes. There's a lot of different groups and organisations that have been on board with the facilities. That was the Cardinia Church was helping us out with that. So there's a lot of different people behind the scenes, and obviously without them we can't do camp. All right. Any questions about any of that? Oh, you couldn't hear me, Jordan. Can you hear me okay now? Yes? Give me the thumbs up, Jordan, if you can hear me. Oh, it's that Coca-Cola in your computer, probably. Hang on. It is being recorded. So you are having problems at the moment with the technology. You've got that. You should be able to later as well if you need to. So yeah, Greg, good question. Yes, the short answer. We've actually got a few more this year. Yeah, we've got a few more this year than we had last year, so that's good. It's not exactly the way I was hoping it would work out in terms of buddies and things, but I'm confident that what we've got is going to work really well. All right. So no other questions about that? Not seeing anything popping up in the chat window. All right, I'm just seeing if there's anything else from here.
My sound's not working.
If there's anything I've missed. Doesn't look like it. All right, we'll go on to the next one. Okay, where's my share button again? That one. Okay, so yeah, when I get the slide up, just so people know, when I get the slide up, I can't see the chat box that goes away. Just hang on. Do you want us to? Probably. Okay. From beginning. Oh, that was fancy. All right. So spiritual aspects in working with SCKC kids. So Southern Cross Kids Camp is, as I've said before, we are a Christian organisation, and that's kind of at the heart and the foundation of. Oh, I can hear someone. Oh, I don't want that one. I want that one. Heart and foundation of everything we do. So we've talked about Carolyn already. Oh, that's interesting. All right, the aspect of the big picture. I'll just get up what's there. So it's expanding horizons. The eye is not seen what God has prepared for those who love him, which is a quote from 1 Corinthians 2:9. And I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And that should immediately start a tune whistling in your head, because that's one of the songs we've been practicing at our training sessions. It's that do 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 do. And at which point you all go, Jeremiah 29:11. Anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there. So what we're trying to show these kids is that one of the things we're trying to show these kids is that God has an amazing plan for them. He has a future worked out for them. The fact that there's bad stuff in their past and their background does not mean that that's what their future has to look like. It can be different. Oh, cool. Thank you, Jordan. So it says here, though, being advised that references which we all make in Christian circles, there's a lot of jargonese for people like myself that have grown up in the church, often tend to create a barrier between us and the children. So we need to make sure that we see ourselves as being one small part in this process. It's not our job on camp to Christianise these kids. It's not our job on camp to, evangelise and do any of that sort of stuff. We're living the experience for these kids. We're demonstrating God's love for these kids. But that's kind of where we sit. I'm just having a look what's on the next slide. The aspect of the dawning of hope. And that's a big part of what we do. Oops, I'll go back one. With camp. Often kids that have experienced trauma and neglect and stuff like that lose hope. It's like, well, there's no point. What could the future possibly be? I'm damaged goods, I'm broken, that's it. That's kind of full stop, end of the line. One of the things we're trying to show these kids that there is actually a hope and a future for them. Part of that whole God has a plan for you is building that hope. Because if we can give kids hope, then we can change their lives. I was actually dealing with a young man today at the school where I work. A boy that a year ago we would have said lots of good things about. But right now is really, really struggling with a whole bunch of stuff. And the big issue for him is that he doesn't see the point. He doesn't see the point. He's like, why? Why even bother? I'm not going to get any better. I'm just going to get to do this anyway. There's only the term left. Why even try? And so because he's given up, because he doesn't have that hope, everything's flatlining for him. His academic progress is stalling and going backwards. His relationships with his friends at school are falling apart and causing all kinds of trouble for himself and for other people, to the point where we had to suspend him today because of some of the choices that he's been making. But he's making all of these choices because he has no hope. But if we can show these kids, hey, life can be different. Life doesn't have to be this way. Then we give them hope. And when they have hope, then they can have a future. All right, love in its purest form. I'll talk some of you who are regular churchgoers would have heard what I'm about to say. In the Bible, there's 3 different words for love. And without me trying to mispronounce the Greek or anything like that, it always just gets translated as love. But you've got the friendship love, so that's the love that we have for a friend. It's kind of a 50-50 kind of, that kind of a back and forth kind of a relationship. There's the love that's very much the physical, me-centered, getting my needs met kind of love. But then there's one that's the love that's all about the other person. It's not self-seeking. It's unconditional and sacrificial. I do this for you because I love you and I don't expect anything in return. Even if you swear at me and call me names and try to kick me in the knees, I will still treat you with love because that's the choice that I'm making. And that's what we try to do on camp. We try to show these kids this love of choosing to love them anyway, because a lot of these kids have got very twisted, oh, there you go, that's a nice picture, very twisted ideas of what love is, because they've been told things like, if you love me, you will do this, or I love you, and then they hurt them and stuff like that. So we're showing them that, hey, it doesn't have to be that way. This is what love is meant to be. It's meant to be not self-seeking. It's meant to be unconditional. It's meant to be sacrificial. All right, what's this one? Is there another one? Oops, go back one. So throughout the course of the camp, because we're loving on these kids, because we're giving, because we're serving, because we're showing them that their life can be different, because we're giving them hope, these are kind of the messages that we're trying to build in these kids. We want these kids to come away from camp knowing these things, knowing that I am lovable. Some of the kids will come in thinking that they are unlovable. No one could really care about me. One of the phrases that I've heard in the past, not from a kid because they usually don't have this level of awareness of their situation, but it's the phrase, if you knew me the way I know me, you wouldn't like me any more than I like me. That's for those kids that have that really low self-esteem. But if we can show them, hey, you know what? We do like you. We do think you're a good person. We do think you're valuable and lovable. That can be a real game changer. And then the rest is there. God cares for me. He knows my name. He'll help me make right choices. He will always be with me. He will give me strength. And these are all based on promises that are in the Bible. One of the things with our camps, the ideal situation, well, ideally we don't need to run the camps because no kids need them. But the second ideal situation is that we get kids at 7 years old and they come to 5 camps, and we kind of go through these as we go through camps. So, there's a new theme for each camp, but it kind of builds on what's come before. So our theme this time around is called Firm Foundations, and it's to do with that idea of him giving us strength. All right, what's the next one? Okay. Many of you will know that trust can be a massive issue for some of our kids. People that they should have been able to trust without even thinking about it have broken that trust, whether it's through abandonment, whether it's through neglect, whether it's through trauma, whether it's through abuse. And it's so important that we show these kids throughout camp that we can be trusted. Because if we can show them that we can be trusted, and then that can change their worldview, because instead of no adults can be trusted, all adults are dodgy, we've got, hey, you know what? Some adults can be trusted. Maybe, just maybe, there might be other adults that I can trust too. And we can really shift that perspective. And that's where that safety and security comes in. So there's a lot of different ways we can do that. Probably the key thing is to do what we say and say what we do. So, we don't say to the kids, yes, we're going to do such and such, if we don't actually know that we are. We don't say to the kids, if you do that again, I'm going to rip your arms off and beat you around the head with them, because we're not going to do that. And as soon as we start saying things that we're not going to do, we break that trust. We start to break that down again. It also means, and this is where it probably gets more challenging for some of us, and it depends on your camper, but when they come into camp, they've been told this buddy is your buddy. They're going to be there for you no matter what. And so some of our kids will try and test those boundaries. And what they need is they need us to be there for them no matter what. So if they call us names, if they try and hurt us, whatever it might be, run away from us, we need to be there for them no matter what. And that's when we show that's when we really show that people can be trusted. Because if we say we're going to be there for them no matter what, and they call us a name and we go, well, stuff you, and walk away, then we lied, and then we can't be trusted either. All right, what's the next one? So forgiveness. Forgiveness is a big one. I am forgiven. With God's help, I can forgive, and this makes me free. There's a saying, I can't remember, I probably read it on Facebook. I read most of my good sayings on Facebook. That idea that unforgiveness is a chain around our own ankle. When we refuse to forgive someone, what it actually does is it allows that person to continue to control us, because we're still angry at that person. We're still whatever it might be. And by forgiving, we release ourselves from that hurt that was done. And so that's something that we model for these kids through the way we work with them. Some of them will say or do things, and then we say, hey, you know what? I forgive you. It's okay. And then we're sort of showing that it can be done. And then when we say it, we actually mean it. You know, it's not just a pat thing. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. And you know they're not. It's actually for reals. So these are the basic outlines for the 5 years of the curriculum. They are in the process of being changed. Southern Cross Kids Camps have been around, as we saw, since 1999. So there's a bit of updating and things going on. But the sheepfold is known and loved. So that'll be trust. Sounds like someone's running the dishwasher. Then there's treasure seekers. Treasure seekers is a great little story, but it's this idea that God's promises never fail. And we might not see them straight away. Those of you that know the story of Joseph, you know, he went through some really dark times before we actually saw God's promises come through for him. What else have we got? Strong foundations. That's the one we're doing this year. Forgiveness, wise and foolish choices and consequences, building blocks of faith, love, forgiveness, and prayer. And particularly in the drama, but also through the story time that we have too, we're really building this idea that the choices we make a difference. There are consequences when we make choices. Some of them are good consequences, some of them are not so good, depending on the choice we make. Never alone, it says there, Moses. So it's that idea of God's supply and God's strength. Moses went through, for those of you familiar with his story, went through some pretty rough times as well. It was a real roller coaster ride of his life. But in the end, you know, God was able to use him in a pretty amazing way to save his entire nation. And then the sure hope talks there about Noah and Jonah. It's this idea of forgiveness, power over the storm, good things can come out of bad. So those key ideas are really positive messages that are not, while they come from, start that sentence again, while they come from biblical foundations and biblical concepts, they're not messages that if you take away the Bible, they carry no weight. Like this idea of forgiveness is a really strong idea. This idea that our choices have consequences. Well, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or an agnostic or whatever you might be. To understand that your choices have consequences is essential if you're going to succeed in life. So yeah, anyway, that's those. All right. Been through this stuff already. So the 30-30 time, for those who maybe missed it, that's our little quiet time that we have after our J zone and before lunch. We're going to be doing our 30-30 time this year in cabin groups. So if it's a nice day, go find a nice spot outside to go and sit and have a chat. If it's miserable and cold and horrible, you do it inside. So, you know, your cabin group could go back to the cabin. Cabin time is quiet time, but 30-30 time is quiet time too. And the evening programs, all the fun stuff we do in the evenings. Bedtime rituals, which is all together now. Quaffle, didn't hear a lot of people joining in. That's okay. And the covering prayer. That's a nice little picture. I'm not sure why that's there. So this one's really important because we come from all different backgrounds and situations. Some of us, like myself, are very actively involved with their church, right through to people that, you know, have barely been in a church at any point in their lives. And it's really important as part of that consistency across camp that we all understand what the rules and boundaries are around this sort of stuff. So for some people, you'd be looking at that list going, well, I don't even know how or what half those things are. Great. For other people, this is stuff that you might see week in, week out at the church meetings you go to. It doesn't matter. These are the rules. So we don't do altar calls. We don't say to the kids, come up the front if you want to give your life to Jesus. We don't do laying on of hands. Now, to clarify that, that's talking about a particular way of praying for kids, where you say, you know, sort of put your hands on them and pray for them while you put your hands on them, kind of a thing. We don't do that. If the kids want you to pray for them, which some may ask, by all means do, but keep it simple and keep it short. No casting out of demons, no speaking in tongues, no anointing with oil, no baptism or giving communion. We as a team will actually share communion on Sunday night, but in terms of our interactions with the kids, we don't do that stuff. And it's because these things are all aspects that different churches have different perspectives on. And we're not there to say to the kids, hey, look at all these different ways, look at all these things we disagree with. We're there to give them a week of happy memories. That's really what it all comes back to. Okay, there are people that will say, well, if I can't do all of that, what's the point? How can God move? God moves through our example. The love of God shared, expressed through your compassion, your positive attention, and your listening ear. It's not our responsibility to get the kids saved. It's not our responsibility to get the kids fixed. It's not our responsibility to make them right. It's our responsibility to give them a week of happy memories. All right. These things can happen. Kids, their hearts can be open to the fact that there is a God who loves them unconditionally. God's word can be hidden in their hearts. You know, we have it in the songs that we sing. We have it in the Bible stories that we have. The kids might ask about this sort of stuff. They might want you to find the Bible story in the Bible that they get, that sort of thing. So there's stuff that can happen, but it's not up to us to make it happen. All right, so we trust the Holy Spirit to continue the work that He commenced. Those of you that are going to be buddies, we strongly encourage you to pray for your camper and their family every day. And that's not just while you're on camp. Do it after camp too. Keep lifting them up. Keep praying for them. All right. A couple of examples here. I don't know the full story behind these, but I like that last one. CJ, the only one of his gang not to end up dead or, as in prison or as a suicide statistic. Why? I kept thinking back to this camp, looking at my memory books and thinking there is another way to live. And that's where that hope comes from, because we're showing these kids it doesn't have to be the way it's always been. It can be different. Look at us. We're different. All right. That's the end of that one. I will start sharing. All right. Any other questions from that one? It's a lot of sitting and listening, isn't it? A lot of talking heads. Sorry about that. It's kind of what we're stuck with this particular model. So I haven't worked out how to share videos yet. Otherwise, I'd get us singing one of the songs. Maybe I'll have a play with that one later. For next time. Having a quick look at my list. Yep. Has everyone seen the those videos from the first couple of sessions, the still faces video and the the vases model?
Yeah.
Getting some thumbs up from people. Fantastic. All right. Any questions from that?
Sorry?
Any questions from that, from the vases model or the still faces video?
I found it really interesting. I like the video with the baby.
Yeah.
With, like, the faces, like, how it reacted.
Mm.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, and the thing that stuck out to me when I watched that is I was thinking, see how upset that kid got, and that was just like 2 minutes.
Yeah, not getting any attention, like not getting anything. And they were really distraught by that.
Yeah, and think about the number of parents that you see nowadays with little kids, and they've got the phone in their hands. And the kids doing stuff, the parents
trying to get their attention.
Yeah, It was interesting. It challenged me to think about how much I have my phone in my hands and I'm dealing with my kids, and my kids are nearly adults now. So, all right. The vases one's important too. One of the things that I have heard with that is this idea that for every negative, you've got to have like 20 positives or something to try and balance it out. So that's something to think about when we're at camp. If we feel like we're overdoing the compliments and the positives, we're actually not overdoing it. We really can't overdo it. As long as we're being sincere, as long as we're being specific, we can lay it on as thick as we want. And, we know that positives jar is always going to have lots of room for more. You can't overfill it, I reckon. All right. I've had a chat to most of you about your own, when we did our interviews, about your own sort of background and where you've come from. So the next section in the manual, and I haven't got slides for this one, sorry, you've got to look at me. It says qualities to bring to camp. And there's sort of, over the page, sorry, understanding one's own issues. There's sort of three general areas that people tend to come from. There's either the charmed life, like me. I grew up in a positive home. You know, I had both my parents. They were good people, worked hard, tried to do the best they could, grew up in the church, all that sort of thing. Then you have the been there, done that, which is people that have come from the background that some of our kids have come from, you know, the trauma and neglect and things like that. And I know that for some of you, that's your situation. And then we have the just a blank. This idea of when I try to think of my childhood, I tend to come up empty. I don't really have any memories, and I can't really recall anything really. And none of those is better or worse than the others. It's just a question of being aware of where you come from and how that might impact how you relate to the kids. So for people like myself with that charmed life, what tends to happen, or can happen, I should say, is when we start to find out what's been going on with these kids, it becomes overwhelming. It becomes a case of, how could this happen? I still remember my very first camp with a buddy, when I had my first buddy break. And my kid hadn't particularly confessed anything significant to me. But when I had my first buddy break, I went and sat in my car and cried for 45 minutes. You know, I was just overwhelmed emotionally from his situation and what had been going on with him. For those that have been there and done that, one of the issues that can happen there is we can become like well, you know, they've been through some stuff, but they don't know what I've been through. They don't really know. Can be kind of a thing that happens. But what's more likely to become is, I reckon I can fix that because I've been through that, so I can sort it out. I know exactly where they're coming from. And that can be a bit of a problem too, because that's not what we're on camp for. We're not there to fix these kids. We're there to give them the week of happy memories. And of course, the issue with the just a blank is you don't know which way you're going to go. You know, it could be triggers. You know, as you get to know the kids, things that are unlock in your mind, and suddenly we remember all those bad experiences that we went through, and then we've got a lot of our own pain that we need to deal with, even though we're there trying to help the kids. All right. So it says, anyway, we talked a lot about the boundaries of the previous trainings. I think I did them at training 3. I remember having a lot of people. We modelled the canoes and things like that. So I'm not going to spend any more time on that one. Just be aware with the campers, when you're sharing with the campers, because you want it, that's what you're there for. You're there to chat, you're there to build relationship. The temptation can be to go a little bit too far. We're not there for ourselves, we're there for them. We empathise, we acknowledge, we recognise, but we're not there to sort of process our own situations and our own feelings and, oh, let me tell you about what happened to me. You know, I had a bad day at work today. I could talk for an hour about some of the rubbish I had to deal with today, but I'm not going to do that because that's not what I'm here for. And it's like that with the kids too. The kids might want to share inappropriately with you, and I guess just to reinforce, and I know I've said this at another training, but just to reinforce that if they want to tell you something and they tell you it's a secret, and they want to know that you'll keep their secret before they tell you, you can't agree to that. You can't say to those kids, yes, I will keep your secret. You can say something like, hey, you know what? I'm happy to hear what you have to say, but if I'm worried that it might mean that you or someone else is in danger, then we're going to have to tell someone else. And when you say that, the kids might choose not to say anything because they don't want their secret to be told, or they might tell you lots because they really hope that somebody will do something and step in and help them out. All right, that's kind of the first 2 sections of the training manual. which was what we did in the first 2 sessions of our official training. We did the songs, obviously. Have a look at the songs on the YouTubes. They're there. The links in the Facebook page. That's the word I'm trying to use. I'm trying to read and think at the same time, and it's not working. Yeah, so that's pretty much the main stuff I wanted to go through. Are there any other questions? It could be about from what we've just talked through, or it could be generic camp questions. I'm happy to try and clarify for people anything. You could just type them on the chat window if you want, or you can put your microphone on and ask. Don't all shout me down at once. Yeah, sure, Carolyn. So, so what I would say is I would say something like, if I think that you, as in the camper, you or someone else might be in danger, then I need to tell someone. With kids, it can be as simple as actually we don't have secrets on camp. If they say they want to tell you a secret, we don't have secrets on camp because we want to keep people safe, and it always comes back to that safety thing. Now, for the guys that are logged in that are buddies, do you know about your banners that we need you to make up? Anybody would like more information about the banners?
Yes, please.
For the people that have buddies, obviously not for me, but for Michael,
Yep.
they have to make banners in their own time?
Yes, please, between now and camp.
Okay. Yep. How big do you want them? Like, is there anything that you want to say on it? Just like their name, welcome, or colours? Like, what do you normally do for banners? Yep,
for sure. So the basic requirements are it needs to be reasonably large. Yep. It needs to be large enough that when the bus is pulling up, they can see their name as they pull up. So A3 is probably a bit too small. We want to sort of go A2. A pillowcase is not a bad kind of a size if you're thinking of sort of a reference point. What you make it out of is entirely up to you. I encourage the buddies to just go with whatever you're good at. We've had people that do embroidery on a pillowcase. I've had people that do puffy paint on a T-shirt. We had one guy a couple of years ago who's a metal worker, and so he cut out a piece of steel and then used weld to write the kid's name in cursive on the front of it, and then attached a chain across the top, so it like a giant necklace around his chest, like a big wrapper. So, you go with what you're good at and what you feel comfortable doing. So first, obviously, their name. Yes, make it visually interesting, so colours and that sort of a thing. The other thing that we often get people to do is we ask people to consider is you have a look up what their name means. So if their name means something really cool, you can put that on there too. So, the name might be Gabby, and it might mean champion horse trainer. I don't know. That's not a very good example. But often when you look up meaning of names, you can find there's often lists of positive meanings for things, and it might mean overcomer, or it might mean strong person, or it might mean princess, or whatever. So reasonably large, their name, meanings if you've got them, and bright and colourful. The kids will take them with them at the end of camp, so keep that in mind too. We have had people do them sort of 1.5 to 2 metres across and 1 metre that way. That's a bit big for a kid to take home with them in their backpack at the end of camp. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Like a canvas or something, so it's like it won't get like scrunched up or anything like that when they take home.
Yep, a canvas is awesome. I've also seen them done where people go and get one of those picture frames from one of the $2 shop type things and just do something on paper but mount it inside the frame. So
that's a good idea too.
Looks a bit nicer that way too, but the canvas has been done. I've seen another one I think I shared. It's like a flags on a string, and so there's a letter for each flag's a letter of their name. That's something that folded up reasonably small too. So so that's the banner. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it was something that I was thinking, I haven't really talked about the banner much. Greg's asked about where do we find the songs on YouTube. So Greg, in our Facebook group that we have, not the friends and supporters, but our private secret one. Somewhere in there, I've shared a link to those videos, so it's there. But if you get stuck, let me know, and I'll find them again. Sharon's actually the one who put them up, so she's actually, if you can't find them, she's a good one to harass. Just send her a message on the Facebook. She's in our group. Say, Sharon, I can't find the videos, and she'll point you at them. Yeah. Anything else, camp-wise? Make sure you get a good night's sleep before camp. Don't plan anything on for the Saturday after camp.
Oops, too late.
Too late. Well, not too early anyway, Kira.
No.
Well, you can plan things. Don't plan to make any serious life-changing decisions on the weekend after camp. That's probably a better way of putting it, because it tends to be fairly full-on by the time we get there. All right. I'm not getting shouted down with other questions and inquiries and things like that. Don't go away yet. I haven't written down who's here.
Ella had one on the chat though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Got Kira. I'll just write it down anyway. I've got my book. Carolyn. I've got Kelly's iPhone. Okay. Michael Jordan's here. Yeah, I'm still doing the joke. Sorry, guys. You will get separate name tags at camp, though, so that'll be okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not doing one big name tag with two straps on it, so that you have to walk around with whether it's Michael Jordan all the time.
Maybe we could wear Michael Jordan jerseys.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Would you have to wear one of those, the pump-up sneakers too, though?
True.
Don't know. I'll leave that one with you. How you go with that?
Oh, so it's Michael Jordan.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes?
Ella asked, what time are we coming to camp on Sunday and what time are we leaving?
Okay. So we meet in Ballarat, and I'll put up a Facebook event at some point between now and when I go to bed with the details. I was going to do it last night, but I just went to bed instead. We'll meet in Ballarat at it's Enjoy Church's East Campus, which is on the corner of Clayton Street and Butt Street, in Golden Point at 4 p.m. So we have what's called a commissioning service. So that's kind of the church's way of saying, well done, you guys. We're supporting you and we're encouraging you, and it's also a chance for them to get to know us a little bit more because they have been very supportive. So we'll do that there. We'll go from there to camp. So by the time we get to camp, it'll be sort of 6:30ish. On the Friday, we'll be back in Ballarat by about sort of 3:34, probably about 3:30 mark actually. The plan is that the kids are all handed over and gone by about 4:30. Then from 5 till 6 we do our debrief, which is quite important. And then after that we have a dinner together, and that's just a chance to just relax a bit, settle, and just talk through, process some of the stuff from camp, and just have a good time together as adults, and not have to worry about the 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds that we've been worrying about for the last week. So we're usually all done with that by about 7 or 7:30. If you can't stay for the dinner, that's okay, but we'd like you to. The debrief's probably really important. I know some people won't be there. He said looking at somebody on his screen who doesn't know I'm looking at him because, I don't know where your little window was on your side. And that's okay. It's not life and death, but it is important. Yeah. Life, darn it. We love you, Michael. Any other questions, comments, queries, complaints?
No, pretty satisfied.
All right, cool. All right, thanks, guys. Really appreciate you signing in tonight. If you do think of anything else, do harass me. Sorry, Gabby, was I interrupting you then?
Does that mean 100 emails?
Too many voices.
I just said thanks.
All right. No. Yep. So those who can come, I'll see you Saturday evening. Otherwise, I'll see you the following Sunday at the church there. Yes, Gabby.
I won't be able to make Saturday. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We'll somehow. That just means that Kira's going to have to do twice as much. That's all.
Well, the problem is that I'm not in the city either.
I know. Jordan's got to do 3 times as much. What? Says Jordan. What?
Doesn't let me down right now.
No, it's all good. We'll do what we can with the people that are there, so that'll be fine. All right, thanks, guys. Best of luck with your weeks, and see you soon.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.